Well, it's another Spiritual Sunday. Happy Spiritual Sunday to you all. All right, so let's just get started. We want to change our consciousness because we know, as we're about to say, the way we think is the way we will act. And so as much as we think we keep changing our thoughts and we keep changing the way we look at things, unfortunately, if we don't really come to the true detailed, let's call it, subtle understanding that we're learning here, we think we're changing. We're changing the way we look at things or what have you, but we're really not. We're just substituting one form of illusion for another. And so this is why we always like to start off with our affirmation so that we can really keep awakening true consciousness, even to be aware when I think I'm changing and I'm not really. So let's start with our affirmation and see where we can go from here. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. You know, I just realized what the trick of that is. Because sometimes when you want to hold on to your grudges and you want to hold on to your resentment and you want to hold on to your anger and all of that, even though we just said what we said, what is that opponent, that little parasite in our head, the nagging, negative, limiting programming? I'm willing to send all of that to everybody, but that person is not a human being. Right. Tell me we never thought that before. So let's start out. I want to start out with a story that will lead into the topic today. So there was once a very poor man, back you're talking in the 1700s in Eastern Europe, and yet he was very kind. And he started to realize one day that there were people that were passed on from this world, but they had nobody praying for them. Kabbalistically, there's a prayer to help the souls that are on the other side of what we call life, the other side of that veil, to help them elevate, to help them have a spiritual awakening, to help them realize what they didn't do in the lifetime that they were just in, that will help them in their next lifetime. Because you and I have come to understand when a person is not in the physical body, we cannot make changes. We cannot make changes. Otherwise, we would have never left the endless world. We had to come out of the endless world to be in the physical world, to have a physical body, because it's only in a physical body that nagging, negative, egocentric, selfish voice can try and taunt us and tempt us into negative behaviors. So this man realized that there were people out there that weren't being prayed for. So he took, in our terms, he took every penny that he had and he would give it to people who would pray for these people. So this went on for a while, and he was still just barely making a living, he and his wife and his family. And one day he just came short. It was just like he was coming to dire straits. So he was out in the forest basically begging the Creator for help and support. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, imagine, I don't know if you've ever been to Eastern Europe and you imagine it like 400 years ago, but like through the forest and the trees comes this very elegant carriage. And this man steps out, finely dressed, whatever, and he says, look, what's going on with you? I see something bother you. So he tells him a little story and this, how he doesn't have money. So the man takes out his checkbook, he writes him a check for whatever, let's say 10,000 rubles, a lot of money, gives him the check, gets back on the carriage, drives away. He's like in shock. This poor kind man, out of nowhere comes this guy with a big check. So he looks at the check, he sees the bank that it's drawn on, goes home, he tells his wife. The next day he goes, into town to the bank. He goes to the cashier. He's probably never been in the bank, right? Didn't have enough money for anything. He goes in, he goes up to the teller, and he says, I'd like to cash this check. The teller looks at the check. She goes in the back room. She comes out a minute later, and she asks the man to come into the manager's office. So the manager, the guy comes in. Now he's a little worried. Maybe they're going to arrest him, whatever. So he goes in, and the manager is looking at him very, strange. And he says, where did you get this check? And he tells him the story. He says, I was out in the forest. I was praying to God, begging for help and support. And this guy comes by in this big carriage and gave me this big check. He says, so you saw this man? He says, yeah, that's how I got the check. He says, you see the pictures here on the wall? Can you pick out that man? So he looks around, he sees the picture. He says, yeah, it's that guy over there. And the manager starts to cry. He says, what's the matter? He said, you know, what is it? He says, that's my father. He passed away 2 years ago. So the story is, the moral of the story, the lesson as we would call it, is that when we do acts of kindness, you never know from where, how, not only blessings, but really miracles can take place. Miracles can take place. And we don't understand, but what we want to really focus on, and I know, there's a lot going around today, and that's why I thought we'd get into it a little bit more deeply Kabbalistically, because everybody wants to be kind. There's the sayings now out there, random acts of kindness. So a person goes in a drive-in line at a restaurant or a coffee place, and they pay for the person in front of them or behind them and things like that. Okay, it's very nice. I am not in any way criticizing that. You and I, though, we here in the center, we've come to want to know a deeper understanding. How do these things work? Why do they work? And what can we do to exponentially grow the results and the benefits from things like this? So let's just start thinking for you personally. Think of a time that you were maybe struggling with something in your life and somebody came along with some act of kindness, almost out of nowhere, right? So if I can ask you, just close your eyes for a moment and think. Just go back to that moment, whichever one you can pick, and just see yourself again, a little struggling, a little confusion, maybe feeling down a little bit. And somebody just came and did something simple. And then observe how it affected you. You may not even have known that person. Okay. You can open your eyes. Otherwise, I'll not know if you're sleeping or not, unless you snore. So what is it? What does that do? I mean, maybe somebody that you didn't, sometimes it's us also. You just happen to be walking down the street and you see somebody, you just smile or you say something nice or whatever, and you can start to see them light up. So we want to understand kindness, like all things, all good actions, is rooted in the light of the Creator. Rooted in the light of the Creator. In fact, a Kabbalist would say to the effect that acts of kindness are actually like the light that's in water. And you'll see why we want to go there a minute. Water is a very powerful, we can't live in this world without water. Right? Our bodies are 80% water, something like that. The world is covered with water. We need to have water. All of our emotions based on water. So the Kabbalists explain us that water is like liquid light. Liquid light. And I want to relate kindness in that way also. Because we can spread kindness like water. You think about it. If we just walk around, like water will wash away dirt. Why do you take a shower? Do you feel good in the shower? Except when you were a kid and your parents made you take a shower, right? But you go in the shower and it doesn't matter, even you're not dirty, right? You just enjoy the shower. And you can make up, it's water and it's this and it's that. But even the scientists say, the negative ions in the water and does this to your physiology and blah, 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 all of that. But you and I, again, going deeper than that. That if water is liquid light and we're being showered, then even if we're not dirty, but we're being cleansed, right? You pour water on a dish. How do you wash your dishes? Water, right? How do we wash our hands? Water. How do we take the dirt away? Water. How do you wash your driveway? Water. Everything is with water. Because water is like, we'll call it for today, that liquid kindness. Liquid kindness. And if you keep pouring out water, what does it do? Like with the leaves. If you've got leaves all over your driveway and you pour out water, what does the water do to all the leaves that are separated and all scattered around your driveway? It unites them all. If you think in those terms, you pour out water and all the leaves are being united. So think of the world today. I mean, how fragmented are we? And doesn't even have to be for you and I. It's not in a bad way. We're not bad people, but we still have that aspect of fragmentation. Do we not? Simple. You ever judge somebody? In the last 24 hours, you ever made any judgment on one person? Yeah, right? So what is that? Judgment is a fragmentation. Judgment is a fragmentation. I'm separate from them, so I can look down on them. I can look what they did wrong. What about when you look in the mirror? You ever look in the mirror and judge yourself? So I hear the voices, Chaim, now tell us how that's fragmentation. Because I'm looking in the mirror and that's me. No, it's not. We say here, I am, we all are, pure and perfect beings of light. So when you look in the mirror and you're judging yourself, criticizing yourself, are you really seeing your pure, perfect being? You seeing the light shining out of you? No. So even that form of criticism is separation and fragmentation. You just fragmented yourself from your true light beingness. Now, I'm not telling you to pretend you didn't do something wrong or pretend there's nobody around the world who's acting in a negative way or nobody in your life who's said or done something negative. We're not talking about that. But our work is to be like kindness, spread kindness. You start waking up kindness in others. Is there not the law of, they call it the law of attraction. Like attracts like. What goes around comes around. So the more we act with kindness, the more the kindness is going to come back to us. The more we act with kindness, the more we awaken kindness in others, the more they're going to start behaving kind. Every now and then, I don't remember the last time I told you this story. Lifetimes ago, in the early 80s, okay, just checking, yes, lifetimes ago, I worked in a small R&D place, research and development, for filter materials like swimming pool filter powder, things like that. So of course, as you do your experiments, there was a lab, a testing lab, that had to check your results. So you know were you making things better, worse, whatever it was. And the lady who ran that testing lab, when I first got this job, everybody warned me, just go in, drop it off, walk away. Don't interact with her. She could be mean and crabby and this, that, and the other thing. So I just got into, basic ideas of spirituality, like attracts like, certain things. So I figured, I'm going to just smile at her. So every day I walk in, I guess I could say her name. Nobody knows her by now. So I go, hi, Rita, how are you? Big smile. Hope you're having a good day. Here, can you, do this? And on and every day, didn't matter what she said, what she did. After about a month, the people I worked with coming up to me, they said, Chaim, are you having an affair with Rita? I said, why would you say that? I mean, okay. I don't want to say anything else. Who knows who? But anyway, why would you say? She says, they'd say because she smiles at you, she treats you nicely, she puts your testing ahead of our testing like this. And I'm thinking, I didn't say anything. I just think, you see, it works. It works. Because inside every person is also a being of light. Does not a being of light include kindness, forgiveness, tolerance, all the things we say, love, kindness, and compassion? Yes, in our affirmation. That means it's already inside. We're just learning to awaken it and let it express out. So this is what I was drawing out. For me, that was a big lesson in the beginning of my spiritual path up until this day. Another validation and affirmation that it does work. Like will attract like. Now, you cannot decide it has to work in your timing. In other words, I could have said after a week, well, no difference in Rita. But I just kept smiling. I didn't quite understand it the way we understand it here, But I was benefiting every day that I smiled at her and said something nice. Why? Because pouring out of me was more light of kindness. So more coming out of me, you experience it, right? The better you breathe, the better you feel. You ever choked on something, like you swallow, you're drinking the water. Does it feel good? Yeah, I can't breathe so well. Coughing. Feels great, right? Give me more of this. No, you want to be able to breathe. The moment you can breathe and you circulate your air properly, you feel better automatically. Are you worried about the people around you? Are you looking at that person that 2 minutes ago you judged? While you're choking, you worried about, what they did, what they said? No, you just want to breathe. You just want to breathe. You want to get that water out of your breathing apparatus so that you breathe properly. The air comes in and flows out nicely. This is what you and I are learning. When we say unconditional kindness, that's what it is. Be kind because it helps me first. I have the circulation of the light. It's going out and somehow it'll come back. And I don't know, I can't tell you. Maybe in that month, other people, other things happened that were also kind that I didn't even realize because I wasn't paying attention. Up until people were pointing out to me. Probably, if I think back, I probably didn't even notice that Rita was behaving so nicely. You follow? Not really like it was such a big deal. Okay, till they pointed out to me. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay. So, if everybody has kindness within them, give you another story. Had a student years back who was having a really nasty time with an ex-wife. She was being tough, stubborn, obstinate, didn't want to give him, anything that they were trying to negotiate, in the continuing saga of their separation and their divorce. So, fortunately for him, he was a student here in the center. What does he do? He started to hear in the various classes, like we're talking today, you know what? Regardless of how she's behaving, just keep sending light, sending light, sending light, sending light. Kindness. Just be kind. Obviously, she's going through a tough time. She's taking this separation and whatever it is a little more painfully than you. So be kind. So he's scanning his Zohar, sending light, kindness waking up light in her. After about a week and a half, he tells me she answered the phone one day, they had a conversation, and he didn't want to say it to her, but after he hung up, he's wondering, did I dial the right number? Because she was behaving so nicely, right? Still worked out whatever they had to work out. It's not like she just said, sure, whatever you want, but she was kind in the process. So when you and I are in difficult situations, isn't that really the more fundamental thing we would like to have? We're willing to work out our differences. We're willing to, talk back and forth and explain, this is what I'm looking for, this is how I see it, I'm sorry, whatever, but have kindness in the process. That's in essence what we've lost today. Look around the world the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Kindness is gone. It's not we all have to agree. We can have differences of opinion. We can look at things differently. We can, hold different ideas and thoughts. But we don't have to be unkind about it. And sadly, I know people who, and especially with the technology, let's call it, of the 21st century, they have a lot of ways to be very unkind and spread their unkindness to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people that you couldn't do 50 years ago. You could spread a little unkindness, maybe, even if you want to talk about gossip. Who do you gossip to? Family, friends, a few associates at work, and that's it. Today, with some of these technologies, you could spread gossip to 100 million people. Okay, I don't want to give you a class on gossip. We'll do that another time. But you get the idea. But what are we learning here? Turn it around. If technology can bring unkindness to hundreds of millions and maybe billions of people, what about kindness? What would happen if you and me and all the students of the Kabbalah Center in the world would write kind things about people that they didn't agree with. Imagine that. Imagine 1 billion people seeing a couple million students of the Kabbalah Center writing, I don't agree with this, that, and the other thing. I don't agree what they said or what they're doing or whatever. You know what? But I'm sending out kindness to this person. I want to think kindly about that person because I know that's the way I can wake up kindness in them. Because even many spiritual people don't think in those terms. We have our automatic reaction. I was telling a group here before we started, about a half hour ago, I have to tell you, I had my moment of very unkind thoughts. Fortunately, it wasn't about a person. It was about an object that was giving me a little, shall we say, some back talk. I'm sure none of you have ever had back talk from your technology. Phone, computer, whatever is your car, things like that. No? Never had it? Yeah. And you wonder how, because people out there, if you're watching this for the first time, no, we are not crazy. Just think about it for a second. Your computer doesn't work the way you want it. And what do you hear? Don't tell me you don't hear a voice in your head going, ha, 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 I got you. I'm not going to listen to you, something like that. And you're screaming back. Even if it's in your own head, you're just screaming at that computer. Okay, is that kind? See, I told you, Kabbalah makes you crazy. What are you talking about? Talking to your computer? Yes. Do you remember a number of years back, there was a Japanese scientist who wrote books on if you speak kindly to water, the crystalline formation of water will be beautiful. A person speaks unkindly to water. When they freeze it and they look at the crystalline structure, it will look ugly and chaotic. Just to validate what you and I are learning here. So how much more? If our bodies are 80% water, when a person speaks unkindly to themselves or to other people, you may not notice right away, but you think about it, over time, there will be an impact of that ugliness that's being created either in the other person, unless they know how to change it, or inside ourselves. Because the water in us is in charge of our emotions. So if it's beautiful and it's in a wonderful symmetrical design, we will be that same way. So even in that, think, even if you don't want to believe the deeper mystical, metaphysical part of this, think even scientifically then. If you're sending kind vibrations with kind words to people, you're creating in their crystalline structure of their emotional source called water, beauty. What's going to be the thing coming out of them? Beauty. Beauty. Even, if they're really in the mud of their negativity and their darkness and their chaos, even a little like birthday candle of light is a huge difference. They may not be shining light like you and me, but even a birthday candle of light's in the right direction, isn't it? A little light, and then a little more light, a little more light. This weekend I had one of those experiences that we all have and that I know happens. You take, like a potato chip bag. You ever try? And you try and pull it, right? And then you realize how weak you are. But you're pulling and pulling, it won't go. So what do? You take a little scissor or you take the top, you put a little tiny tear in it. And all of a sudden, whoosh, the whole thing goes. So then imagine with people, you put a tear in their negativity, a tear in their mud, in our own. It's easier then for the rest to come apart, for the mud to be dispelled, for the negativity, the unkindness, the impatience, the judgment, the jealousy to fall apart. Just like water. You put enough water on things, the water will dilute the dirt until it's gone. When I was in Israel the first time in 1997, I'd never seen this before, at least not anywhere I grew up here in America. Tile floors, and when they went to wash the floors, they just took a bucket of water, They pour it out, like throw it out on the floor, and then they go with a mop and this and this. Okay, that was the first thing. But the thing I noticed, because I was in the center, so I'm, kind of watching, not just in the 1% amazement, but I'm watching what water does. Because I'd heard for the number of years, I was 10 years in the center at that point, and we heard water is liquid light, liquid light, liquid light. So you watch the properties of water, you learn a little more about the light. So the water would come up to the leg of a table or the leg of a chair. Like you and I. Think in these last 24 hours, one obstacle that you've encountered. There may still be a little bit of a blockage. Don't look at me. I hope I'm not your obstacle. Okay. You say, but a little obstacle. Okay, doesn't that be major? What do we think? Oh my God, what am I going to do? What's going to happen? I don't know what to do. Chaos and confusion. What did the water do to the chair leg or the table leg? Around, under, or through. Nothing stopped the water from moving forward. You and I, the tiniest little thing, oh my God, what am I going to do now? No? I'm the only one in this room who exaggerates those things, yes? The rest of you all got it. That's why I'm here and you're over there. So we want to think like water. Kindness, just kindness. Kindness to yourself, kindness to other people. Even now, we do want to be observant of ourselves and see where we make mistakes. Again, I'm not telling you forget your mistakes, ignore your mistakes, don't acknowledge what the other people doing. But once you see your mistake, like you see the dirt, what do you do in your house when you see dirt on the floor? You wash it and you take away the dirt. That's as simple as we want to make this. Just express kindness. What does it hurt you? Really, honestly, if you think about what does it hurt you? Where's the disadvantage to act with kindness? So I can hear it. You're so nice you don't want to say it, but what does the opponent out here say? Oh no, if you act kind to that nasty person, then they're going to think they can take control over you, right? That they're better than you, that they can take more advantage of you. No, what does water do? Water dispels the dirt. It washes away the dirt. The more you're acting with kindness, and again, that doesn't mean you lay down and let them walk all over you. Just like the water, like the light. You shine light, darkness cannot enter. That's the protection we want. We want to hold that. Oh, I read a story, you get these magazines that here and there will give nice stories. And I'm sure we've all heard certain ones like this, but just to see, even if you and I are spreading kindness, and those of us who are open spiritually, just being kinder and nicer, you'll see more stories like this. And I'm sure there's a lot of them out there. We could probably tell for hours. But this one, yeah, okay. A young girl, 4th grade, cancer treatments. Now imagine, think back when we were in 4th grade. When I was in 4th grade, we weren't nasty and mean about, let's say, making fun or what have you. Made fun in simple ways, freckles, I don't know, your hair's cowlick, whatever it was, but not mean. You follow? So here, today, unfortunately, a lot of young kids, more mean. So here's this 4th grade girl losing her hair. She's in cancer treatments. What does her class do? I'm sure you already know. They all shave their head in solidarity to not make her feel bad. Could you imagine the parents? Mom, I want to shave my head, right? Why? Well, because Mary Jane in class, she's going through cancer treatment, this. Now imagine what the parents thinking. Okay, sure. But you see pictures of this, and it happens many ways. There's more and more of it happening. All I'm asking us today is let's make it happen faster. Don't get caught up in your negativity. Don't get caught up. You ever had one of those moments? It happened to me today. I'm about to walk out the house and I forgot something. Easy to walk out and forget. I'm sure we've all done it, right? But as I'm about to walk out, all of a sudden I hear that little voice. Chaim, you forgot this. Went back in the house, picked it up like this. What is that? Think in our terms today. It's our own soul being kind to us. If kindness is like water, and water is liquid light, then kindness is the light of the Creator. And our soul is filled with the light. It just wants to get out. So this is why it's so important also, when those little things happen, have appreciation. Just be thankful that your soul was able to get that word in edgewise among all the other thoughts in your head. And I know sometimes it seems like such little things, but like I shared with somebody recently, if you remember back to 1984, the Challenger that blew up on its takeoff, whatever it was, a multi-billion-dollar rocket and project. What blew it up and killed 4 astronauts out of multi-billions of dollars? $1.50 O-ring. $1.50 O-ring that malfunctioned, blew up, whatever it was, a multi-billion-dollar space rocket and 4 astronauts. So don't let that opponent in your head make little fun silliness out of little things. Appreciate the voice that you hear when it reminds you of something. How about this? You ever had, the other day, because I've been getting better at this, sometimes I'll, close my eyes and I'll ask the Creator, I'll ask the light, I'll ask my soul for guidance. Who can I speak to? Which student do I need to call? And then when I hear the voice, I've learned to call most of the time. I can't tell you I'm perfect at it, but invariably, when it's really like that, I'll call. And I had this one. I called somebody that I hadn't talked to in a while, and she says, "Oh my God, how did you know to call me?" She was just debating what to do. Her dog had developed cancer. They were debating whether to cut the leg off, not cut the leg off, this, that, and the other thing. And she was just, sad, number one, about her dog that she'd had for so many years, and she didn't know what to do because she knew it was, in her mind, life or death. So we had a nice conversation. She came up with a decision, and I'm happy to tell you now it worked out well for her. But for me, it was just another validation. If you have a desire to be kind, you have a desire to help, the universe will show you ways to help. And we all do it. And the more we do it, the more it'll multiply. If we all did it, because the light is exponential. It says in the Bible, very simple. If you're working on yourself spiritually, as you'll call it, the spiritual people, as spiritual people are growing and uniting, it says 5 will chase away 100 aspects of negativity, and 100 will be able to chase away 10,000. So the Kabbalists write, they say, okay, let's look at this objectively, right? If 5 can chase 100, that's 1 to 20. But 100 to 10,000, that's exponential. And that was the lesson. The more of us gather together, the more exponentially we will reach and affect the world. So this is what you want to think. Who could you be more kind to? Think about right now. Who can you be more kind to that maybe in the last week or two you weren't so kind? And it could be even family and friends, people you love. It doesn't have to be people that you don't like. Even people we love we can be kinder to, can we not? Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll skip that one. Okay. Remember cause and okay. I was just thinking, okay, never mind. Libra. See, you caught me in my Libra moment. All right. So I'll be kind. I won't tell you the whole story. Okay. Cause and effect, like attracts like. That's what I want us to hold on to. What goes around comes around. It is an absolute, immutable law. The only glitch for us is how long it takes. But that's not up to us. We don't know what the universe calculates. We don't know what we owe spiritually. We don't know what negative things we've done. But at the end of the story, it pays tremendous dividends to just be kind. So I want to, I just reminded, before I tell you this story, just to show you, physically again, kindness is water, water is liquid light. So I remember when I was a kid, they taught us about the Grand Canyon, right? Stone. You ever been hit by a stone, tripped on a stone, somebody, hurts, right? So I remember the first time I understood the Grand Canyon. How did the Grand Canyon get formed? It was water just running over stone. Eventually, over whatever was hundreds or thousands of years, that running water cut the stone, cut the stone, cut the stone, and created the Grand Canyon. What does it mean for us today? Yeah, you could be kind once or twice. And you say, okay, look, it didn't come back to me. Look, they didn't change. Maybe I didn't even feel better. Even myself, you look in the mirror and say, okay, be kind to Chaim. Okay, you try and be kind, and then the next day something happens. Oh, see, it doesn't work. Well, something else happens. No, the lesson of the Grand Canyon is the consistency. That water flowed. Imagine the water speaking to itself. Hello? The stone's not changing. Stone's not changing. Stone's not changing. Stone's not changing. Yeah, but over 100 years, you start to notice, oh, now there's a cut in it. We just have to persist. So there's a story I want to finish with. Story from the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov was one of the greatest Kabbalists of about 300 years ago. Actually, in one way, well, he's part of the lineage of the center, if you will, because he brought happiness and joy. His idea was just to be kind to everybody. Back at that time, even those who called themselves scholars of Kabbalah didn't necessarily think about being kind to other people. If they were scholars, if they were learned people, but if they were just sort of the regular people in the world, they weren't unkind per se, but they didn't go out of their way to be kind. The Baal Shem Tov came along and said, no, the Creator is kind to all of us. Like we said, our soul is kind all the time. Give us reminders, give us perspectives, go this way, not that way. And then you realize you went around an accident, or you went, got to where you needed to go on time, whatever it may have been. So this was his way. So of course, everywhere he went, he created miracles. Miracles, 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 miracles. So as he was leaving the world, he told his students, he gave each one a job to do. And he went to one of his students and he says, your job is to go around and tell stories of the miracles you saw me do. Okay, so he says to his teacher, he says, okay, that's great. How long do I have to do that? Because it means, especially in those days, like traveling around away from his family and whatever. So the Baal Shem Tov says, you'll know. You'll know when you've done enough. Okay? So he starts going, he's, goes around telling stories. And of course, this is how he's making his living. People would pay for this. He hears about a very wealthy man, far off, a distant country or area, that paid big money to hear stories of the Baal Shem Tov. So he says, okay, if I'm already, let's say telling stories for $1, why not do it for 100? So he travels, this long distance to go to this rich man's house, and he invites him in. And the guy says, I was at the Baal Shem Tov for years and years and years. I got plenty of stories. Okay, so they're spending the weekend. If you know Shabbat, you know the idea. So they start, so Friday night they have the meal, and during the meal, the rich man looks at the guy and says, okay, tell us a story. The guy can't think of one story. He starts to be a little, embarrassed. And the rich man says, oh, maybe you're just tired. Okay, we'll go to sleep and, we'll start all over again. So comes the next morning, right? They do their morning connection. They're having a meal. Says, okay, tell me a story. He still can't think of a story. And this goes on all for the rest of the day. The rich man you could imagine most people, you'd think, screaming, who are you? You're just taking advantage of it. No, nothing. Didn't say anything, just kept egging, asking him, can you tell me a story? Tell me a story. So the whole day comes and goes. The storyteller, he knows he's got to leave. It's time to go. And he just feels bad. and he tells the guy, he says, well, I couldn't tell you a story, so you don't have to pay me. I'm so sorry. He says, no, let me give you something for your time, your trouble, whatever. So he gave him a little something, and the guy leaves. Now imagine, this is like horse and buggy and things like that. The guy's traveling about an hour, and all of a sudden he remembers a story. Now, what would you think? What would most people do? Is he really going to go back an hour back to tell the story? Is he going to just continue on his journey? He goes back. And as he goes back, he sees, he knocks on the door. The guy opens the door, and he could tell that the rich man had been crying. His eyes were all red and puffy. He says, I thought of a story. I don't know the beginning and the end of the story, but I know the middle of the story. So, okay, tell me. So he says there was a time when, the government, as they often did in various areas, decreed that there would be a what do they call it? Where they come in and just ransack the place, right? Like the soldiers come in and just, either they kill or whatever, terrorize people. So my teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, took us to that city where, we were going to pray, we were going to meditate, whatever, to try and avert this disaster. And as we got there, my teacher asked me to go to the general of the army that had come into town and said, tomorrow, if you're not out of here, we're coming and we're just, ransacking the place. He says, go tell him your teacher wants to speak to him. The guy's a killer. You want me to go ask him? But he knew if his teacher told him to go, he knew it was okay. So he goes, and whatever reason, this general guy, the head of the army, comes and he meets with the Baal Shem Tov. And they're in the room alone for about an hour, hour and a half, whatever it was. And the guy comes out, and the next day, nothing. Like the army left, everything like this. He says, I don't know what the Baal Shem Tov said to him. I don't know, what happened before or after. I don't know what happened in that room, but that's the story. So the rich man looks at me and says, don't you recognize me? No. He says, I'm that general. He said, when I was in the room with your teacher, just as we'd call it today, the kindness that emanated from him, just the kind words, you could feel the words he was saying reached into my heart and made me realize what I was doing. And it was the wrong thing. It wasn't right. So I begged him to tell me what I could do to fix it. What could I do to fix all the things that I had done up to that point? So he says, he gave him things to do, different things to do to cleanse his past, his negativity or whatever. And he asked the Baal Shem Tov, he says, when will I know that I've paid back my spiritual debt? He says, when you hear this story. He says, and that's why for all these years I've paid so much money to hear stories. He says, but when you came and you couldn't tell me a story, I knew you had the answer, but I knew I hadn't cleansed myself enough. And that's why you couldn't remember. So as you left, I went back to, praying, begging, all the things that your teacher told me. And then you came back with a story. And so they both understood that was the end of their tikkun, their karma, so to speak. The storyteller didn't have to tell any more stories, and the general knew he had cleansed all of his negativity. So as we're closing up today, I just want to remind us, it doesn't cost us anything to extend kindness, but it brings back all kinds of blessings. Just be kind unconditionally. Let it flow from inside you out, because the light of that kindness will cleanse all your negativity. You just have to keep going. So yeah, there's going to be those moments when you're judging, whatever, you're angry, you're jealous. Stop, pause for a moment, and then just remember, if I'm emanating kindness, one, it's cleansing me, and that goodness and that sense of peace will overcome me. At the same time, if I'm reaching into the heart and soul of other people, extending kindness, it's going to wake up the kindness in them. And since we know our soul, which is made up of light, is in essence kindness, it wants to be unified. It wants to be loving and forgiving and tolerant. So instead of waking up the harshness of another person with our harshness, if we're extending kindness, we're going to wake up kindness in others. When we look in the mirror and we awaken kindness about ourselves, then it's also going to be, because the light of kindness comes from the true light of the Creator. And the Creator's nature is just love. And as we're extending that kindness and emanating love, it will not only make us feel better, it will not only make the other people feel better, but it will just spread like water spreads. Nobody can stop that energy of kindness and unconditional love from reaching their heart and soul. They may be able temporarily, like the chair leg, kind of block that water for a moment. Or as my teachers, the Rav and Karen, always called it, for a moment, temporarily people can choose to hug their chaos, hold on to their resentment, their anger, etc. But like we see in the physical water, when there's enough flow of that light, enough flow of love, enough flow of kindness, it will break the hearts of stone of every human being on earth. And that's what will make this world a better place, more harmony, peace, and unity in the world. God bless. So I want to thank you all, as we do every week. I'd like to be able to say, and hopefully it's coming soon, that we have enough resources to spread the Zohar all over the world. Because we know, according to all the Kabbalists for thousands of years, the spread of the Zohar, even if it's just these little books, all right, will shine so much light that it will remove pain, suffering, chaos, the darkness in the hearts of people. It'll take it away. So meanwhile, your support is what's helping us to reach out to more people. And I encourage you, go on Kabbalah.com and just look up the stories of miracles, look up the story of the Zohar Project. We're reaching out to people. In fact, this week in St. Louis, we don't have a full center there. There's a study group. But about 20 people went out to the fire station, the police stations, to different hospitals, community organizations to hand out Zohar. And in these last few years, it's like more and more people receptive. Because like we said today, more of us, more of the people who are coming to the center, more of the students in the center, just shining more light, changing themselves, it emanates light out there. So this is why we always take this time now. We cannot do it without your support. We cannot continue to do. We can't maintain this building to have these things. So everything that you give is going out to really reach the hearts and souls of 8 billion people. So as we said today, I'm just asking all of you who are online, whatever you can give, there's a giving site that you can go. For those of us here, we want to take this moment just to bless our offering. Because the more we bless it, the more light we put in it, the more light it will shine out into the world. And the faster we will be able to not have any worry about going out in the world, not have any worry about our health, our prosperity, our safety in the world. Because the light in us is meant and will remove all the chaos. It's a question of how fast we can do it. And with what's going on in the world, I can only encourage you and me and all of us to speed up the process. That's it. The faster we spread the Zohar, the faster we remove all the darkness, the more enlightenment, the more protected we are, and the faster we remove it from all around the world. And again, as we always do, after we finish the offering, I do have a 72 name we want to meditate on. So just hold your offering. Those of you who are here, hold it in your hand. Those of you online, just close your eyes and meditate with us. And then please go online and give your contribution. So first and foremost, just acknowledging and being grateful for all the kindness that our soul, the light of the Creator, has shown us thousands of times just in this lifetime. And being thankful that we're becoming more and more aware, more and more conscious of all the times that our soul is giving us kindness, that other people, the light through them giving us kindness, and how and having the greater awareness that that kindness has improved our lives, has allowed us to feel more peace and serenity. So we want to inject that appreciation, that blessing into this offering, injecting it with light and love, kindness, and forgiveness. That as we're paying back our spiritual debt to the 8 billion people on the planet, we awaken and strengthen their desire from in their heart and their soul to do the same for all people. And we commit ourselves to persevere, to continue being channels of light, to continue contributing to the spread of the Zohar, until there's no more darkness, no more discord, no more disunity. But there is love, kindness, compassion, and peace. And together we say, Amen. So I have one of the names. Let's see. Let's make sure we get it here first. Okay. Yes. Here it says the power of water. But as we just explained, water is kindness. And so we want to use this. Vav, here we go. Vav Mem Bet. Those are the names of these nanoparticles of light. And if this is your first time, the Hebrew letters are primordial. They just are particles of the light of the Creator. This is one of the 72 names of God. It's called because God is one, but like light has, in simple terms, 7 frequencies called the 7 colors, so too the infinite light of the Creator has thousands of frequencies of kindness and forgiveness and overcoming our negativity and creating unity and, removing our hatred, our fears, bringing sustenance and abundance. So this one is the power of kindness and mercy. Vav Mem Bet. So just let the shapes be engraved in your mind's eye. Vav Mem Bet. And then if I can ask you, sit comfortably in your chair, hands on your lap, feet flat on the floor. Breathing in the breath of life through your nose. Hold it for a moment. Exhale through the mouth. Seeing and feeling a stronger circulation of not just breath, but light from the upper worlds, through you, out to the world. And as that breath circulates, allow yourself to relax, to let go of whatever tension, whatever negative thoughts have been in your mind. Just allow the light to take them away. And in your mind's eye, see this name, Vav Mem Bet. See it right in front of you, just above eye level, across from our third eye. Vav Mem Bet, the power of kindness, unstoppable kindness. So see that beam of light from the upper worlds channeling through the Vav Mem Bet, See how those letters shine, because they are portals to the upper world. And then let that light shine through your third eye, and then go directly to your heart and soul. Feel the Vav Mem Bet from the soul awakening this kindness to your heart. Let it grow. See the light shining brighter and brighter. Notice that feeling of greater kindness awakening inside you. Let that light take away the scars in your heart that were created by some of the situations in your life, some of the negativity you encountered, some of the negativity that you created. Allow this kindness, Vav Mem Bet, to heal those scars. That more of the full force of the light of the Creator is now channeling out of you. Let it shine to the heart and soul of your family and friends. Through all the people in your neighborhood, your state, your country, out to the world. Let this vibration, this godlike thought pattern of kindness that is extending out of you, remind you we are all one soul, extending kindness to everyone unconditionally, as allowing to come from above through you to all parts of your life, also greater kindness. And let's together, joined in oneness, envision every person, all nationalities, cultures, colors, languages, looking at each other with kindness. Kindness shining from the heart, kindness towards each other, shining from our eyes. And seeing that light growing brighter and brighter, and the darkness that was surrounding the world dissipating, being transformed into this beautiful white light of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, and kindness. And together, taking one more deep breath, anchoring it, strengthening it, engraving it inside of us. And then slowly exhale and open your eyes. Those of you here, thank you for joining us. Those of you online with us, thank you for being with us. Look forward to seeing you again. Yes, we will be here next week. And please write me, let me know the random acts of kindness, quote unquote random, the acts of kindness that you've done, that were done towards you, what it's done for you, how it made you feel, how it's changed your life, so that we can share those in another Spiritual Sunday. And remember, we have a Spiritual Sunday YouTube channel. We now have TikTok, Chaim Solomon on TikTok, with the help of my kids, and Instagram. All right? Have a blessed week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you for joining us. If you liked what you saw, subscribe to this channel that you'll be notified when we post new videos. Share the video with your friends, they can also benefit. And check out the website, www.kabbalah.com, that's Kabbalah, for hundreds of articles and classes. Wish you an amazing day, and God bless.